Happy Tuesday. Welcome into the show. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. And as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. So many content options out there. That's why we're always so grateful and thankful and blessed that you choose us. There is so much to talk about on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. The Birds have dropped 2 games in a row. Did we overrate Philadelphia? We're going to talk a little bit about that. How can this offense get fixed? What does the playoff picture look like? And it's time to call out Howie Roseman for neglecting a position that he should not have neglected going into this year. And we talked about that here on the show as well. All of that to get to in addition to your questions as you come in here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up icon and like the video here on the stream. Our stream would not be possible if it wasn't for Factor. 50% off when you use the code EaglesChat50. During this holiday season, all of us are so busy. It's hard to find time to go to the grocery store, to meal prep, and then once you get all of that food, the idea sounds great, right? Then you have to meal prep everything, chop everything up, and it takes so much time. You don't have to worry about that with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat, delivered right to your door meal delivery service. You can choose from all types of options, from keto-friendly options to vegan, a lot of vegetarian meals in here that I've tried that I really like, or you can go with the protein-packed options as well. What's great about Factor, everything is prepared, dietitian approved, and you can still meet all of your health needs by joining the Factor train. The deal, unbeatable. 50% off using the code EaglesChat50. You pick from 35 plus weekly chef-prepared meals, dietitian approved. They are prepped and cooked to perfection. All you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, you heat them up, you eat them, and you really enjoy them. So factormeals.com/EaglesChat50. Get signed up today. We do want to hear from you because we want to have a therapy session here on Eagles Now. Ugly loss against the San Francisco 49ers. Another performance against the Dallas Cowboys that left you scratching your head, wondering what is going on with the lack of effort, the lack of quality coaching, the lack of preparation. And now the Eagles have to go to the Pacific Northwest on the road for the second consecutive week to take on a desperate Seattle Seahawks team. And this is a Seattle organization that Philadelphia has not been able to take down since 2008. Now, Russell Wilson was their nemesis, and right now, Seattle Seahawks have some quarterback questions. Geno Smith dealing with the groin injury. Drew Lock started last week in a loss to the San Francisco 49ers. But either way, some concerns with this football team, although they are 4-point favorites going to Lumen Field in Seattle. If you want to get on the show for our therapy session, I want to hear from all of you out there, and I want to hear from the real ones. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat to ask us anything as part of our mailbag. We have 4 segments coming up today. The best content pertaining to the Eagles and covering the Eagles that you will find right here on YouTube. I hope that you're all ready to enjoy it. What I want right now is for everybody watching to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. I'm looking at the recent commenter club, Nicholas Clover, M. Destroyer, Johnny Cullum. We have Giants Now, Marshall Green in the chat saying that Tommy DeVito is better than Jalen Hurts. You can type F New York, F NYG, and F Marshall because Tommy Cutlets is not better than Jalen Hurts. As Hurts said, we're not stuck in this right now. We're just going through it right now. He also said DeVito is going to sweep. I need to hear the Eagles fans fired up here. We're not starting the show until we get the 50 likes. We are 12 away from hitting that number. Currently 38 real ones have hit that thumbs up icon and liked the video so far. More likes that we get, the more people who hang out, the better that the show will be and the livelier that everything gets. Mike Ray, Davida Nelson, type in F New York. Ernesto, type in F the Giants. Don Ackerley, Tommy Cutlet's agent, looks connected. He kind of does, Don. He looks like a mobster. Justin Jones saying, what's up, Chase? What is up, Justin? We're 4 likes away from 50, and then we'll start the official show here. Need 4 more people to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. Nicholas Clover, Fire NYG. I have producer Chip hanging out. He's waiting to get the 50 likes so that he can start the show as well.
Let's
because
go.
There is plenty to discuss. live on Eagles Now. Chip, you're a little bit under the weather. I'm a little bit under the weather. You just got to be built different, though. It's football season. We got content to do.
Oh, 100%. We never let it stop you, Never. Rima says, adversity, got to battle through it, baby.
Arav Rathor, I see that you're a golfer, my man. Maybe at some point we can hit the golf course. Appreciate you for being a real one. All right, we're up to 65 likes right here on the show. So without further ado, we're going to start the program here. Segment number 1. How can the Philadelphia Eagles fix their offense? Let's do a deep dive study right now. Coming your way on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, a deep dive study into how the Philadelphia Eagles can fix their struggling offense. Nick Sirianni said here on Tuesday that no offensive staff changes will be made. Brian Johnson is still going to be the play caller. Philadelphia's offense has definitely sputtered over the last 2 weeks, and all throughout the 2023 season, they have been mightily inconsistent. Today, we're going to try to solve some of those issues. First, though, if you think the Eagles can turn it around as a collective football unit, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. I explained on Monday's show that I still have confidence in this team. If you think that the Eagles are doomed, though, and the last 2 games have exposed them, and this is who they are, I want you to comment why. Let's start off with this. I think that the Philadelphia Eagles' issues on the offensive side of the football are fixable. I think that the sample size is pretty long with Nick Sirianni, some of the players, and the athletes on this team, where I think that these issues can be rectified. And I think that Philadelphia has the coaches as well as the personnel to get it done. First of all, you look at the numbers that the Eagles have put forward during this 10-3 start. And I know that in Philadelphia, the sky is always falling after a loss, but Philadelphia, ladies and gentlemen, is 10-3. They're 6th in points per game, 4th in points per drive, 8th in yards per game, 3rd on first downs. Their third down offense is also 3rd. When they get into the red zone, they have struggled over the last couple of weeks, but they are converting those red zone trips into touchdowns, the 10th best among 32 teams in the NFL. Turnovers are an issue. They are 18th. And yes, going against the Dallas Cowboys, no offensive touchdowns for the first time under head coach Nick Sirianni. Let's get to these fixes here. I think the most obvious fix for Philadelphia is for this offense to become less predictable. And this falls on the plate of Nick Sirianni. After all, he is an offensive mind. Jeffrey Lurie has hired offensive head coaches, Andy Reid, Chip Kelly, Doug Peterson, and Nick Sirianni. So this falls on Sirianni here. And multiple players have told former Eagles insider Derek Gunn, who used to work for NBC Sports Philadelphia, now he's on Jacob Media, that the Eagles' offense is very predictable for opponents. Some of the players said you look at the Eagles' pass routes compared to the Cowboys' pass routes from Sunday Night Football. And the Eagles' passing routes, according to what I believe to be the wide receivers here, take too long to develop downfield. And that's why Jalen Hurts has had all day in the pocket, but nowhere to throw the football. And eventually, the pass rusher is able to get home because nobody's able to get open because there's a lack of creativity from this offensive coaching staff. And the Eagles players also anonymously said that the Dallas Cowboys get the ball out, their shit out, very, very quickly. Whereas the Eagles, to my previous point, do not. There has to be more creativity with play calls and play design. And my goodness, in today's NFL, can Nick Sirianni please implement a little bit more pre-snap motion? More on that in a moment. The Eagles rank last in motion rate at 9.6%. And some of the top, most innovative offenses in the National Football League are using a ton of motion, pre-snap and at the snap. It gets you an advantage. And when you have playmakers like DeAndre Swift and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, why isn't Nick Sirianni, why aren't the Eagles putting those players on the move to try to gain some mismatches and exploit those mismatches? When you go back and look at Devontae Smith at Alabama when he won the Heisman Trophy, he was on the move pre-snap all of the time. Now, Philadelphia's lined him up out of the slot, and that's a good start, but they have to expand on some of the modern nuances of the NFL offensive type of philosophies that we see league-wide today. Because when you look at the most motion used in the NFL and the least motion used in the NFL, where do you see Philadelphia? They are dead last, and they are dead last by a wide margin. And when you look at the 5 teams that utilize motion the least, what types of teams are you looking at? The Carolina Panthers are the worst team in football. Arizona Cardinals are one of the worst teams in football. The Cleveland Browns have been a stagnant offense all throughout this year and have dealt with a lot of quarterback injuries, and now Joe Flacco comes in from his couch, and over the last couple of weeks, he's played well, but with him at quarterback, he's not a pre-snap motion type of QB, and the Philadelphia Eagles using motion 9.6% of the time. But then you look at some of the more innovative offenses with some of the more innovative and creative offensive minds. Mike McDaniel, the Miami Dolphins, 65% to the Eagles' 9.6%. Sean McVay and the Los Angeles Rams, 43%. Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers. That presented a lot of mismatches against Philadelphia 2 weeks ago, 36.9%. And then you have Matt LaFleur, who's a part of that Kyle Shanahan tree, and Ben Johnson, who's probably the most sought-after coordinator on the offensive side of the ball to get a head coaching job this year, coming in at number 5. And what is notable is that Shane Steichen used to be the Eagles offensive coordinator for the last couple of years, and now he is the Indianapolis Colts head coach. Where do the Indianapolis Colts rank on that list of motion? Number 11. So what that tells me, this is a Nick Sirianni philosophical problem. And Nick Sirianni doesn't believe that for this offense to be successful, that they have to utilize pre-snap motion. But I think for Philadelphia and all of the weapons that they have on that side of the ball, there are a bevy of them. And that's why this Eagles offense's struggles have been so frustrating, is because they're too good to not be able to score a damn touchdown against the Dallas Cowboys. I think Sirianni has to look in the mirror and start to make some adjustments. The fact that Steichen is using motion 11th most, and he was with Philadelphia last year, when last year they were bottom 5 as well, all fingers point to Nick Sirianni here. Now, I believe today's show is very informative, and that's what we aim to do every single day here on Eagles Now. If you want more Eagles chatter like this, we got you with Eagles shows every single day, and that's why we're approaching 68,000 subscribers, a little more than 500 people away from that milestone. Let's do it for Jordan Mailata. Good day, mate. Hit that sub button. Number 2, I think Philadelphia has to run the football a little bit more. These stats are pretty notable here. Philadelphia under Nick Sirianni, 30-6 when running the ball 23+ times. The Philadelphia Eagles are 3-8 when they run it under Nick Sirianni, less than 23 times. That is not a knock on Jalen Hurts, but when this offense is more balanced, it becomes less predictable. When you're using more motion, you become less predictable and harder to defend. So all of these things, I hope that Nick Sirianni and this staff are talking about these things inside the NovaCare complex. Run the ball more on that. Eagles have the 6th highest rushing success rate out of the pony formation with 2 running backs on the field. Yet, Philadelphia, despite having the 6th highest success rate out of pony, only runs that package the 2nd lowest time as far as attempts in the NFL. And also, this Eagles offensive line has to be better. They have great personnel with their front 5. But the Eagles' offensive line is 18th in blown block rate over the last 4 weeks, and they are not playing up to their standard. So I talked about Nick Sirianni just moments ago, and believe me, we're only getting started here on the show. Are you worried about him as the head coach of the Eagles? Type W for worried, C for confident. Let me know right now down in the comment section. I want to let you know about Factor and the deal that they have to offer for the Bird Gang everywhere. 50% off America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, where these meals get delivered straight to your door. Use the code EaglesChat50 so that you can see what I'm talking about. What I love about Factor, the variety of options, but also the quality of food. I just ran a half marathon on Friday, 13.1 miles. I have a running streak that is well north of 200 days. Used to have a running streak earlier this year that I wrapped up at 300 days, and I need to be able to fuel up with some healthy food that doesn't have me feeling like crap. And that's why I like Factor. I also like all of the types of different meals that they have to offer. If you want to go heavy on protein, you can. If you're more going the keto route, you can go that route. Or if you don't eat meat and you're a vegetarian, there are vegetarian meals as well. They have smoothies that they can include, and they have meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So get started today. You pick your prepaid meals. They are prepped and cooked to perfection. You heat them up and enjoy them. One more time, factormeals.com/EaglesChat50. That link is available for you down in the comment section as well as in the description of this video. How to fix this Eagles offense? Well, we talked about running the ball more, some more pre-snap motion. This just comes down to playing sloppy because the Philadelphia Eagles have played sloppy over the last 5 games. 9 fumbles and 2 interceptions over the last 5 outings. And this is a coaching staff that always preaches ball security. They have signs in the practice facility, ball security. Yet Philadelphia has not done that. And when you think about what happened against the Cowboys, if you go back and look at the tape, not all was that bad, even though the Eagles didn't score an offensive touchdown. A big reason they didn't score an offensive touchdown, Jalen Hurts fumble in plus territory. A.J. Brown fumble in plus territory. Devontae Smith, also a fumble on Dallas' side of the field. So when you turn the football over, teams in the NFL win games between 70 and 80% of the time. And in turn, it halts and stops your offensive momentum right in its tracks. It gives the opponent momentum and juice. And it takes the opportunities to put points on the board, off the board. What's also an issue is that when you turn the football over, you're having to play in a lot of these close games, and you're playing with fire when you have to come back from all of these halftime and second half deficits. Point differential is an issue for this Eagles team this year. And this point differential is not a point differential that a 10-3 team usually has. So Philadelphia has gotten a little bit lucky. I don't think that always coming through in the clutch is lucky. But to be 10-3 with this point differential, Philadelphia is a little bit lucky. They're only plus 21. At this time last year, for instance, Philadelphia had games wrapped up at halftime. They were plus 138. At this time in 2004, Philadelphia was at plus 162. At this time in 2002, they were at plus 140. Those are all years in which Philadelphia was able to make it to an NFC Championship game. And we're not even talking about that number being close. It is so far off, and that is not sustainable. And if you stop turning the football over, the Eagles will be able to build upon that number a little bit more. Next up, this coaching staff, Brian Johnson as the play caller, Nick Sirianni as the play designer. This is his offense, ladies and gentlemen. They have to make Jalen Hurts' life a little bit easier. Hurts has the second most difficult throws on average among all quarterbacks in the NFL. His expected completion percentage of 61.6% is also the second lowest in the NFL. He is not, to translate that, throwing into wide open windows. He is having to over and over and over again throw into tight windows. Now, I think there are a couple of reasons for this. It's the play design, it's the lack of creativity, it's the lack of route trees for these wide receivers. As we're about to talk about, they're not running a lot of crossers, they're not running a lot of running back screens, which is an open window and a high completion throw. And everything for Hurts right now seems to be outside of the numbers down the sideline. And when Hurts is having to do that, the defense is really having to cover only a small percentage of the field, and those require tight window throws because the safeties are always coming over. The Eagles are 8th in yards per attempt and 6th in success rate when throwing between the numbers, but they are 30th in the percentage of passes thrown in between the numbers. So as Shane Haff, give him a follow on Twitter, points out, because some of his analysis with this Eagles offense is fantastic on Twitter. Shout out to him. Life gets easier for a defense when they don't have to worry about covering 60% of the field. And right now, teams are covering about 40% of the field outside of the numbers toward the sideline. And those sideline throws, very tight window throws. And some of my ideas in just making throws in between the numbers, You have one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Dallas Goedert running down the seam. There aren't a lot of linebackers who want to defend him. There aren't a lot of slot nickel cornerbacks who are able to have the height to defend him. Safety's having to try to come over the top to hit Dallas Goedert, who's a big dude. They don't want that smoke all the time. I want to see more crossers from A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. You get the ball in their hands. And we saw 2 weeks ago what Kyle Shanahan was able to do with Deebo Samuel and with Devontae Smith, wide receiver screens, crossing routes. And when you run some of those crossers, you're able to really cross up some of the defenders because you're crossing the face of a couple of defenders and they're not sure which way to go. And then in turn, not only do you get the ball in space, in stride to Brown and Devontae Smith to pick up yards after the catch, it's an easier throw for Jalen Hurts. You can send the slot wide receiver right down the numbers. And how about running backs out of the backfield? My goodness. You know, me growing up watching Eagles football, Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, even Chip Kelly did this for a little while with the wheel routes, right? Can we see some more passes to some of these running backs? How about DeAndre Swift fakes a block, leaks through the offensive line, he goes down the center of the field. Like, these are things that the Eagles should be doing and are not doing right now. As far as running back screens, let's hit on that. The Eagles are 4th in the NFL in success rate on running back screens. So this has been a successful play for Philadelphia. But they don't call a lot of screen plays. They are 28th in usage. As far as running some more slants, that's another way to target the middle area of the field. Eagles are 7th in success rate on slants, but they rank 22nd in usage. Can the Eagles run some more curls? The Eagles rank 1st in success rate on curls, but they rank 28th in usage. That's why I said off the rip that these changes can be made and these issues are fixable for Philadelphia's offense, but they better get to it fast. 4 games left, a month sample size to get your shit in gear and get ready for the playoffs. I hope to see some of those changes against Seattle this upcoming week. Let's hear from you. What is the biggest change that you would make to the Philadelphia Eagles offense? Let me know down in the comment section. As always, we appreciate you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. How about Paul C? Paul! A $50 super chat. This is just sickening, he said. We're much better than this. We need to not be so conservative on offense, and I have no words for our linebackers and our DBs. Do you think we need to reset the coordinators in the next few weeks and draft Trotter Jr.? It's so funny that you brought up some of these things, Paul. You brought up these things right when I was at the start of the segment. And then what did we end up doing? We talked about not being as conservative and being more creative. We're about to talk about the linebacking unit because that is a position that Howie Roseman has neglected for far too long. And I talked a little bit about the coordinators in that first segment, mostly, obviously, Brian Johnson. I want to see how these coordinators adjust in the final month because if the team gets back on track and they play the football that they are capable of playing, I think it's really important to have coordinator continuity. I mean, we see the drop-off going from Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon to Brian Johnson and Sean Desai. I think it's important to have that continuity year in and year out because if you're consistently adjusting to a new scheme, new principles, new nuances, more language, it's hard to grasp that. Consistency is really important. All right, we are going to do a mailbag here in a bit, so use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat to literally ask us anything that you want. That's hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat to ask us anything here on Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we're going to do a therapy session. We want to hear from you, and I know that you have the opportunity to spit your knowledge, so do that. Just use the hashtag Eagles attached to your comment. There are so many comments that come in. It just allows producer Chip to filter through all of those and find the best questions. So to Paul's latter half of his super chat, he was talking about the linebacker position, and he mentioned Jeremiah Trotter Jr. We're actually going to talk about Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I promise Paul C. does not work here. He's basically the extension of producer Chip, being an executive producer. He's coming up with some good storylines, and now we're going to tap into those storylines right now for segment number 2. It is time for me as the host of Philadelphia Eagles now to hold Howie Roseman accountable. The Philadelphia Eagles need to make an organizational change and change one of their philosophical approaches as it comes to a certain position on the defensive side of the football. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Howie Roseman is the best general manager in the game. The way that he's able to pull off financial gymnastics, manage the cap, and I think he's done a better job with evaluating talent in the NFL draft and how he's able to pluck players in free agency. The Philadelphia Eagles have become a destination, partially because of Howie Roseman. But him ignoring a specific position has become a problem, especially in the 2023 season. First, a programming alert here on Eagles Now. We're going to be running it back for another watch party right here on the show. We have had countless watch parties surpass 100,000 subscribers. Eagles must-win game against the Seattle Seahawks. We'll be live for an hour pregame show beginning at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. So I hope that all of you join us, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and don't miss the best place to experience the game outside of being at the actual game. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our sponsor, True Classic. It's the holiday season. If you're trying to get some shopping done or you've been getting a lot of gift cards from some of your family members, significant others, and you're looking for some new clothes, go no further than True Classic. I'm wearing one of their golf polos right now, and the holidays are here. That means one thing. It's time to break out all of your favorite outerwear from True Classic. True Classic's ultra comfortable, perfect fitting essentials make for the perfect gift for the men in your life. From jackets to jeans to sweaters, everything they make is crafted with premium fabrics to help you look and feel great anytime, anywhere. We have a great deal for you if you go to trueclassic.com/chatsports. Right now, limited time only, you can get yourself and the men in your life the most loved gifts of all at a discount rate. It's 25% off using that link at the bottom of your screen. Now, I'm wearing the polo right now, but when it also comes to their sweatshirts, their hoodies, and crews, they will become your go-to items for casual Fridays, game days, trips to the gym. I've worn these golf polos out on the golf course. I'm also a huge fan of their zip hoodie, which I wear pretty much every single day when I'm kicking it at the crib after work because it's so comfortable. So if you're looking for a more formal look, they've got you covered there too. They just launched 5 different styles of button-up shirts, a new sweater that feels like cashmere, and fleece jackets to warm up during the cold weather. The sweatpants are also awesome. trueclassic.com/chatsports. We'll put that link down below in the comment section and in the description of this video. Get 25% off. So the issue and the philosophical change that I want to see Howie Roseman make is just valuing the linebacker position a little bit more. This year, the Eagles linebackers are a problem, and the receipts are there. Throughout the entire offseason, we were saying, Eagles linebackers are an issue. It's the biggest weakness on this team in addition to safety. Would love to see Philadelphia spend some money there. Howie Roseman has never invested in that position. Is he going to do it? Can the Philadelphia Eagles trade for a player like Patrick Queen after the Baltimore Ravens did not exercise his 5th-year option? Howie Roseman didn't make any of those moves. He signed Nicholas Morrow for cheap. He signed Zach Cunningham for cheap, and he just signed Shaq Leonard, who played 14 snaps against the Dallas Cowboys. Howie Roseman, philosophically, has never valued the linebacker position, and it has become a glaring hole on this Eagles team. And we know how Howie likes to build a football unit. He has literally said this before. You got to get your franchise quarterback. You got to build up the trenches along the offensive line and the defensive line, and then you focus toward your cornerbacks. Now, previously to this offseason, when the Eagles re-signed Darius Slay and restructured his contract and then brought back James Bradberry, Philadelphia had never really invested in the cornerback position. So that's a little bit of a team-building change from Howie Roseman. But going into the year, you look at the defensive spending for the Eagles here. On the entire defensive side of the football, they ranked 26th among 32 teams. And the budget there going into this year, $89.4 million. Now, increasingly, offense has won more and more at the NFL level, but you might like to see that number of 26 be a little bit higher. Howie Roseman is a magician with the cap, so you'd think that the Eagles are paying a lot along that defensive line. They're actually 17th. Linebacker, though, 31st among 32 teams. And right now, the lack of paying linebackers is costing the Eagles. Cornerback 8th, and then safety, also an issue this year, 32nd. So the Eagles here are bottom 2, linebacker and safety. And the Eagles just don't even draft linebackers either. You can look back at Davion Taylor. They lucked into TJ Edwards, who is a UDFA coming out of Wisconsin, and Philadelphia was able to develop him into one of the best off-ball linebackers in the NFL. And you look at the Eagles' defense here in 2023, a big reason why Philadelphia has struggled so much on the defensive side of the football. I think Sean Desai being a new defensive coordinator obviously impacts the team as far as a lack of consistency, because Jonathan Gannon is missed just because he was there for a couple of years, and Sean Desai has not been able to utilize the talent to his advantage. But also, Sean Desai isn't working with a good linebacking core or a good safety unit. The Eagles are 28th in points per game, 29th in points per drive, 22nd in yards per game. Turnovers forced. They're not feasting the football. 21st there. Passing touchdowns allowed. Second last in the NFL. First downs by penalties. So not only are they not forcing turnovers, they're getting penalized a lot. That comes down to coaching and discipline. 26th there. Third down defense, last in the NFL. And their red zone defense is 30th. If the Eagles had TJ Edwards, I'm pretty confident that those numbers would not be as low as they are right now. And what's a shame is that the Philadelphia Eagles developed TJ Edwards into a very good player. He went from a UDFA fighting for a roster spot as a rookie to barely making the 53-man roster to a very solid backer, where last year he was the second highest graded linebacker according to Pro Football Focus. And he got $12 million in guaranteed money to go to the Chicago Bears. And there are some rumors out there that TJ Edwards was offered more by Philadelphia. But why would he want to go to Chicago, an awful football team, instead of the Eagles coming off a Super Bowl if the Eagles offered him a little bit more money? The Eagles are sorely missing TJ Edwards this year. He has an overall Pro Football Focus grade of 79.5. He was so good against the pass, tight ends and slot receivers, and against the run. Run defense grade of 79.4. Pass rush grade, he can sack the quarterback a little bit. He has 2 sacks this year, 81.4 there. His coverage grade is 70.7. He has 95 solo tackles, 4 pass breakups, 7 tackles for loss. And what the Eagles are doing here, relying on retreads. Nicholas Morrow, retread. Zach Cunningham, retread. Shaq Leonard, 3-time first-team All-Pro, but a retread. And the middle of the field has been getting gashed because opponents are going to keep attacking that area of the field until the Eagles show that they can stop it. And up to this point, they haven't been able to stop it. Another issue with not having a rangy sideline-to-sideline linebacker, a guy who has vertical speed as well, it's missed tackles. And what missed tackles lead to longer drives and more snaps for this Eagles defense. How tired has this team looked over the last month? You know why they've looked so tired? Because the snap counts have gone up so much by about 13 per game over the last month and a half compared to the first month and a half of the season. Now, when you look ahead to the 2024 linebacker free agency crop, it's obviously too little too late for Philadelphia right now. They're going to have to try to mask those weaknesses and put a Band-Aid on what is a pretty big cut, but they have an opportunity to right their wrongs here. Would love to see what Devin White can do for this football team. Age 26, you can use him as a blitzer. He could drop back in coverage. His speed, he's a game changer. Josie Jewell, really underrated player for the Denver Broncos. He's only 28. Bobby Wagner's a little bit older, continues to defy father time. It's going to catch up to him at some point, but he's playing good ball for Seattle. And what's frustrating is that Philadelphia could have traded for a Devin White. They could have traded for a Bobby Wagner. At the trade deadline, they could have gone after a Jordan Hicks. Levante David, I'm kind of out on him. He's 33. Devin Bush is 25. We talked about the trade rumors around Patrick Queen because we talked about linebacking being an issue for this team. Denzel Perriman, 31. Oren Burks, 28. And Tyrell Dodson, 25. So the latter names on that list, not all that good, but a good free agency crop this upcoming season. What the Eagles are looking for is a prototypical drop-back linebacker, off-ball linebacker, who can flourish and hold up in coverage against the pass. And that's exactly what Patrick Queen is. I love the player because of his durability. He's never missed a game in his NFL career. I like the player because of his range. I love a player for his instincts, and he has them. If you want to use him in some blitz packages, you can do that. 3.5 sacks. He's been a tackling machine, 108 this year. He also has 4 pass breakups and 8 tackles for loss. And the Pro Football Focus numbers that he's put up this year are so much better than any linebacker on this Eagles team. Overall grade of 76.1, run defense grade of 73.8, pass rush grade of 70.8, and then a coverage grade of 72.9. What I'd like to see the Eagles do, maybe invest in a player like that, because with the increasing talent level at tight ends, with the increasing creativity from offensive coordinators and offensive head coaches across the NFL, a lot of these smaller slot wide receivers, a lot of these tight ends, they live in the middle area of the field. And right now, that's where Philadelphia has been gashed. Now, I said C at one point because Paul C., one of our Super Chat MVPs and Bird's Nest Hall of Fame members, brought up the name Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Does this celebration look familiar? The Axeman. That's because Jeremiah Trotter's son, who used to play for the Philadelphia Eagles, is Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who plays for Clemson, rocked the number 54, and Trot was known as the Axeman. Had a hell of a career coming out of Stephen F. Austin. He was one of the developmental projects under Andy Reid and Jim Johnson, and for a little while there, he's one of the best linebackers in the NFL in the early 2000s. A physical force who is not scared to hit you, who could also play off ball and thrive around the line of scrimmage. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. has a lot of the same qualities that his dad had when he was playing with the Birds. Here's what he did at Clemson in 2023. Could be available at the end of the first round or in the second round. 5.5 sacks, 54 solo tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, and an overall Pro Football Focus grade of 85.7. I'm telling Howie Roseman right now, do whatever you have to do to get Jeremiah Trotter Jr. on this roster. He decided to forego his senior year of eligibility at Clemson. He's only 20 years old right now, and that can be one of your franchise building blocks and an opportunity for you to correct one of your wrongs and to shore up a weakness on this team. So if you don't want to pay the big money to a Patrick Queen, then at least draft a quality linebacker high in the draft like a Jeremiah Trotter Jr. who could be available for when the Eagles pick. If you want the Eagles to invest in linebacker more, send a message to Howie Roseman. He might come across this video. Type LB down below. And as always, thanks for watching the program here. Stephen Bailey, $10 super chat, not worried about our Birds. They will get it together on Monday night. And I said as much on my couch this morning as I was drinking some coffee after a cold plunge, getting ready for my run. The Eagles in the last 2 games have looked awful. They can ease everybody's concerns with a dominant performance against the Seattle Seahawks on Monday night. It can literally change just like that. You play dominant, and then you have the Giants twice and the Cardinals to round out the schedule, and you can get the 14 wins for the second straight year. All the concerns, they will die down a little bit. All right, we do want to do a mailbag coming up next here on the show, so let's hear from you. Hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat to ask us anything. Let's allow you to show off your football knowledge, and this can be a little bit of a therapy session because Eagles fans are up in arms right now with how this team has played over the last 2 weeks. How are we doing on questions there, Chip? We could use a couple more.
I know a couple of y'all got some more questions here.
So we could use a couple more questions. Get those questions in right now for an upcoming mailbag.
Make sure you use hashtag Eagles.
Yeah, hashtag Eagles, or if you send in a super chat, you're guaranteed to be featured on the mailbag. So a couple of ways for you to get involved. Chip just put the plug in the chat right there. Hashtag Eagles or a super chat to get those questions on air. See Hibbs, we made the Super Bowl and look good in it. We're not a dynasty, and we need to get it right. I agree. Corbin Carpenter, watching my first ever Eagles game live on Monday. Been a fan since I was 7. I hope next week looks nothing like this week. I hope so too. That's awesome. Have fun at the game, man. The real RMP. If the offense does not show up Monday, then we have some causes for concerns. Our guy, Paul C. If we were to get a new coordinator, who would you want, offense and defense? My goodness, that's a good question. You know, it's unfortunate the Eagles lost out on Vic Fangio because of Jonathan Gannon and the whole tampering situation. because the Dolphins have one of the best defenses in the NFL this year. Eagles have one of the worst. Now, they went with the Vic Fangio disciple and Sean Desai, but he's not the same guy. Yeah, we can just get the 10 to 12 minutes on this, Chip. All right, cool. Henry, the average Niner fan, I see you in there. Thanks for watching the show in both streams, my guy. You're a real one. And we're going to have our therapy session live on Eagles Now. Ready to rock? All right, let's take your questions right now. Tony Mesa with another $2 super chat. Appreciate that as well, my Brody. All right, let's do it. We're going to do a little bit of a therapy session on today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Birds have lost 2 games in a row in ugly fashion to 2 teams that are hated by this fan base, the San Francisco 49ers and more so the Dallas Cowboys. So on today's show, I want to take your questions and all of your analysis from our loyal Eagles Now subscribers. Speaking of our subscribers, it's really been incredible to be able to grow this channel as a guy who grew up right outside of Philadelphia in Westchester and went to Temple University. We're moving at an unbelievable clip right now. 67,500 people are subscribed to the show. We are 500 people away from 68K. Can we get there before Monday night? If you want entertaining, informative, and insightful Eagles shows every single day that'll make you a smarter Eagles fan, more informed Eagles fan, that can also give you a little bit of a laugh since mainstream media is so boring nowadays, hit that sub button. Eagles Now today, by the way, is sponsored by True Classic. I am wearing one of their polos here, and it's got that athletic material, and it is so comfortable. I've worn these on shows like this. I've worn them out on dates. I've worn them out on the town with a lot of my homies. I can wear them on the golf course as well. But True Classic does not just have golf polos. The holidays are here, and that means one thing. It's time to break out my favorite outerwear as well from True Classic. They're ultra comfortable, perfect fitting essentials make for the perfect gift for all of the men in your life. From jackets to jeans to sweaters to polos to shirts to joggers to shorts. Everything they make crafted with premium fabrics to help you look and feel great anytime, anywhere. Right now, limited time only, you can get yourself a great deal. 25% off your first order at trueclassic.com/chatsports. That is trueclassic.com/chatsports. And when I talk about my wardrobe, right, I love versatility. I love variety. I want to be able to wear everything. And I do wear a little bit of everything. If I'm at work, I like to dress to impress with the golf polo or a button-up, which True Classic also has. If I'm out on a run and it's really cold, want to rock some joggers, I can also wear some of their shorts. And there's nothing better than hoodie weather. And there's nothing better than this holiday sale. TrueClassic.com/chatsports, code chatsports, 25% off when you use our link. Let's get it started with Paul here. And he brings up a couple of pertinent issues that we've discussed here on Eagles Now. He said the last 2 games, they have been sickening. And he's really echoing how all of us are feeling, right? He said we're much better than this. We need to not be so conservative on offense. And I have no words for our linebackers and our defensive backs. Do you think we need to reset the coordinators in the next offseason and also draft Jeremiah Trotter Jr.? So he makes a couple of good points here. And earlier this week, I did a segment, how to fix the Philadelphia Eagles offense. They are last in motion rate among all teams in the NFL. So there's a lack of creativity there. They have all this success rate with slants and curls and crossers and running back screens, but they use some of those plays the least among all teams in the NFL, even though they've been one of the more efficient teams in the NFL at executing those types of plays. Out of the pony formation with 2 running backs, Philadelphia also one of the more efficient teams in the NFL, yet they don't use that package enough. Jalen Hurts has the fewest open window throws, so he's throwing into contested windows all the time pretty much among all quarterbacks at the NFL level. And everything over the last couple of weeks has seemed hard. That's because it's been hard. Now, this isn't because of Brian Johnson, I don't think. This is Nick Sirianni's offense here. And he has to make a little bit of a philosophical switch because I think the league is caught up to what Nick Sirianni likes to do on the offensive side of the ball. And that's allowing his weapons to win. But the Eagles' elite weapons in A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert aren't winning enough. Jalen Hurts is turning the football over more than last year. That's halting drives. And in turn, they're also not making Hurts' life easier with some simple, modern-day NFL things that you can do on the offensive side of the football. Sean Desai, a little bit sketchy. This is where not being able to hire Vic Fangio because of the Jonathan Gannon tampering scandal has come back to cost Philadelphia. If you have Vic Fangio, I have no doubt that this Eagles defense is much better. Now, what's interesting is that before this stretch of Kansas City, Buffalo, San Francisco, and Dallas, the Eagles did have an overall top 10 defense. But going up against this juggernaut of quarterbacks, they have not been anything close to that. So if the coordinators are able to turn it around from here on out, and the Eagles can recapture what they did well last year and start to play more efficient football, get a little bit more creative, then I think it's important to not have to go through coordinators every year. As far as Jeremiah Trotter Jr., we also did a segment on him this week. I am all in. It is time for Howie Roseman to invest in linebacker. The Eagles went into 2023 31st in linebacking spending, 32nd in safety spending, two positions that they have to take more seriously. Stephen Bailey, $10 super chat. I'm not worried about our birds. They will get it together on Monday night. The odds makers think that Philadelphia is going to be able to get back on track on Monday night. They were underdogs to the San Francisco 49ers. They were underdogs to the Dallas Cowboys, but going into Monday night, the Philadelphia Eagles are 4-point favorites, going up against a team that has lost 4 games in a row. Seattle is certainly desperate. There's no doubt about that, but they don't have the level of talent that Philadelphia has. No excuse to lose what is a must-win game because of how things are shaking out in the NFC. David Marcella, just put your turnover chain in the mail today as you are one of our raffle winners from our watch party last week. Eagles need to run the ball more, get back to the RPO, maybe go back to a quicker pace. Hurts looks slow and sluggish. The defense needs to run the bear front. They need to stunt and blitz a little bit more. I love the analysis that we're getting on today's show. I do want to talk about the RPO. Teams this year have not respected the RPO like in previous years because they know that Jalen Hurts is a little bit banged up. And Marcella, to your point, Hurts does look a little bit slow. He's lacking some of that speed, and I think that is due to that knee injury. So when you're running the RPO and teams aren't respecting you to pull it down and run it for Jalen Hurts, it's kind of an empty play, and that's why this Eagles offense, I think, has struggled to run the football a little bit. But can they get more creative? Shoot, can they throw some more screen passes as well? They can do that. A quicker pace, I think, could allow them to think less, do more, and be a little bit more efficient. As far as the defense running the bear front, that is a Buddy Ryan special, 5 defensive linemen. A team like the San Francisco 49ers went after Chase Young. Chase Young and Nick Bosa have been lining up at defensive tackle. Now, Jim Schwartz would do this sometimes where Brandon Graham would slide inside. I saw his son Reddick on Sunday night line up at defensive tackle, but do those things a little bit more. I'm with you, Marcella. Kane Angel, any news about Ndamukong Suh or Zach Ertz coming to the Eagles are not confirmed. Nothing confirmed, nothing new. I'm actually surprised with 4 games left in the regular season that as of this recording, Zach Ertz has not signed anywhere yet. I think there are a lot of teams that would have interest in him, like Philadelphia, like Baltimore, like Kansas City, like San Francisco. Those have been the grouping of teams that have been in on Zach Ertz reportedly. Who you got on Monday Night Football? Our guy Stephen Bailey, he's going with the Birds. What do you think? PHISEA. Let us know right now in the comment section and get those predictions in. I think the Eagles are going to silence a lot of the naysayers, a lot of the detractors. I think they're going to get a win and calm a lot of people's nerves. China, with all the rumors and players frustrated, do you think that we are losing the locker room? I have never come across a football team, and I can't remember a football team, that is 10-3, that has lost the locker room. Nick Sirianni, in year 1 of a rebuild, overcame a 2-5 start to make the playoffs and went from a pass-happy offense to a run-heavy offense and made the necessary adjustments in season to get to the playoffs, year 1 of a rebuild. Year 2, he made it to a Super Bowl, 14-3, and if it wasn't for a Jalen Hurts fumble, if it wasn't for Jonathan Gannon getting pantsed by Andy Reid, Eagles have a Super Bowl, and then we're not having this conversation. These are back-to-back losses against two very good teams in San Francisco as well as Dallas. I think the Niners right now, best team in football, and the Cowboys statistically have been playing like one of the best teams in football. We'll see what they do in this final month on the road against Buffalo, on the road against Miami, at home against Detroit, and on the road against Washington. But these issues are fixable, and the Eagles control their own destiny. Now, players have come out and said our routes offensively are too predictable. NFL analysts, including me, have said this offense is lacking creativity and is a little bit too predictable, but these things can be rectified. These things can be changed. And honestly, bad job by the leadership of this Eagles locker room, especially with some players who have been here more than a decade, like Jason Kelce, Brandon Graham, and Lane Johnson. If this locker room is lost, I don't think so. I think they can right the ship. And with Jalen Hurts as a leader, I think he can get his guys in line. Callie Green, excellent profile picture here. This is one of our Super Chat giveaways a couple of weeks ago on one of our watch parties. The legendary Jason Kelce Super Bowl parade speech in the Mummers gear. He signed one of the photos, and we gave it away to Romeo. I'll never forget, I was probably about 100 yards away from the Art Museum steps on that February day in 2018 for that parade. I'll never forget it. Anyway, 3-2 in the gauntlet. They said we would be lucky to finish with that. Now it's not good enough. Coaching has been suspect on both sides. Coaching has been suspect. I think that the Eagles have been ill-prepared. I think that the turnovers, the lack of creativity, the lack of adjustments, all of that can be pointed to the coaching staff. You know, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they haven't played their best football over the last couple of weeks. And I know that as coaches, you want to preach ball security, but Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith have to be better with ball security. Devontae Smith is one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. He can't drop footballs like he's been dropping. And going back to China's message, 3-2 in the gauntlet. I mean, if you're able to beat the Seattle Seahawks and you go 3-2, going into this year, anybody would have taken that. And you go 3-2, you win out, you are 14-3 in the NFC. It's pretty damn good. Halo. Defense needs to step up also and throw more slants with Smitty and deep balls with, you didn't finish that question there. Yeah, the defense needs to step up. You know, they're the worst third down defense. They're one of the worst red zone defenses. The defensive numbers are absolutely dreadful. There is no doubt about that. For the Eagles offense, I put together a whole video this week. How to fix the Eagles offense. We talked about it on our live show. Throwing more slants. That is one of the things that I discussed as far as some of the adjustments that the Eagles can make to fix the offense. I do want to round out this mailbag with this question. And this will be the pinned comment on today's video. The Eagles are O for overrated, U for underrated, P for properly rated. I am looking at our live poll right now, and 44% checking in with saying overrated, 40% properly rated, only 17% underrated. Paul C., another $5 super chat. And if you watched all the way through on that mailbag, type real one right now. Paul's a real one. There he is with the Brian Dawkins jersey. By the way, can everybody type some ring emojis in the chat? Because Paul on Sunday night during our watch party let us know that he just got engaged.
Paul!
Everybody type some rings in the chat.
Type those rings, baby.
Type some rings in the chat for Paul. He said, what's your honest prediction for the Birds this year? And how far do you honestly think we'll go? Look, if they make it to the Super Bowl, Paul, won't be surprised. If they get upended in the second round, that won't surprise me either. If they have to go on the road against the San Francisco 49ers and win or lose, I won't be surprised. I want to see, because context is so important, how this team ends the season. If they go into the playoffs sputtering, I've really never seen a team that's been able to recapture that type of momentum from being good to awful, and then in the playoffs, they can just turn things around. Like, the Eagles in 2017 were a little bit different because Nick Foles was the backup quarterback, and they were figuring things out. So they could win the Super Bowl. They could go out in the wild card round. This has been a Jekyll and Hyde team this year, Paul. and nothing is going to surprise me at all. But that matchup against San Francisco does concern me with how well the Niners are playing right now, how they beat Philadelphia 2 weeks ago, and how much the Eagles are struggling. But again, it can all change with the win against Seattle. All right, we're going to round out the live show by taking a look at the Eagles playoff picture. It's starting to get pretty interesting with the month left. Yeah, I love it, Paul. Matthew said the only ring I know is the one that goes around the old sack. So Matthew has a sack ring. Very interesting. One of my cousins growing up was rumored to have a penis ring, but I didn't ask him, and I didn't ask him to show me. Said cousin had a nipple ring, so if that's any indication, those rumors may have been true. Paul. I would never get a penis ring, by the way. That's nothing I would do, and I would never get my nipples pierced. I've heard that's the most painful thing, most painful piercing that you can get outside of the penis ring.
Interesting.
Or for ladies, that area.
I think maybe you could. I think you could rock one.
No way.
Maybe two.
Can you imagine like being live on the air and you just like see the ring poking out?
It'd be a great look.
Glad we got some laughs in the chat. Matthew said the old shaft hat. That is just elite level humor, and I absolutely love it. We won't stop you from that. Brian Russell said, ouch. Yeah, I can imagine. All right, Eagles playoff picture, and then we're also going to preview this game against the Seattle Seahawks to round out our live coverage here today. So let's get to stepping right now. Another loaded Philadelphia Eagles now on the docket for all of you today, and we appreciate you for tuning in. We're going to take a look at the Eagles playoff picture because things have tightened after back-to-back Eagles losses to the Cowboys as well as the San Francisco 49ers. And then we're also going to preview the Sunday night football game against the Seattle Seahawks on the back half of the show. You first look at the Eagles' remaining schedule, and I am here to tell you that while the sky might be falling after two blowout losses to San Francisco and Dallas, I think that everything is going to be okay for Philadelphia. Everything is in their grasp. They control their own destiny. And when you match this Eagles schedule up with the Cowboys schedule, I think Philadelphia can win the NFC East, and they still have an opportunity to get the number one seed in home field advantage for the second consecutive year, or get that 2 seed behind the San Francisco 49ers. And the 2 seed path might honestly be a little bit easier. Week 15 on the road against the Seattle Seahawks, Monday Night Football. The Eagles are 4-point favorites in this game. Seattle has lost 4 games in a row, and they have quarterback question marks because Geno Smith did not play last week because of a groin injury. If he can't go or has a setback, Drew Lock will play once again. You can't lose to Drew Lock, but Philadelphia, they've been owned by Seattle. Have not beaten that organization since 2008. You win that game, and you can very easily win out. And why I have confidence in this team, I think that some of their issues are in-house. I think some of these issues can be fixed. And going into the playoffs, if you're able to gather some offensive momentum and you start to hit your stride, confidence is a fantastic thing. Whether you're trying to approach a fine lady at the bar or you're a football team trying to get geared up for the playoffs. If you blow out the Giants, Cardinals, and Giants, you start to get that confidence where everything is rolling in your favor going into the playoffs like the Eagles had last year as the best team in football at the time. Why I also have confidence in Philadelphia to win the NFC East, I understand that the Cowboys are playing good ball right now. They have now beaten 2 teams with a winning record this year. It's coming back-to-back weeks, Seattle Seahawks and the Philadelphia Eagles. Their remaining schedule is very difficult. And over the last 3 decades, when have the Cowboys not choked in a big moment? Do you expect them to run the table here? I don't. On the road against the Bills, they're desperate. On the road against the Dolphins, they just lost on Monday night to the Tennessee Titans. At home against the Lions, and then Week 18 on the road against the Washington Commanders. That is the Cowboys' gauntlet, and the Eagles already got through their gauntlet. As for the San Francisco 49ers, this is the team to watch. They started the year with the 5-game winning streak. They lost 3 in a row. Now they've won 5 games in a row. Their schedule, somewhat easy. bad Cardinals team, Ravens game on Christmas is going to be a very difficult one. That could be a loss. But if the Eagles and the 49ers finish the season tied, the tiebreaker goes to San Francisco. They go on the road against the Commanders, and then Week 18 at home against the Los Angeles Rams. And as you look at the NFC playoff picture here, San Francisco owns the tiebreaker, and on Monday night, with the Packers losing to the Giants, they became the first team in the National Football League to clinch a playoff spot. And because they have the tiebreaker over Philadelphia, as well as the Cowboys by winning those head-to-head matchups, even though those three teams are tied with the 10-3 record, San Francisco, number 1 seed. Dallas Cowboys, they won the recent matchup. They slide up to number 2. Philadelphia drops all the way to 5th. And then the Lions are kind of reeling right now. They haven't played good football in a long time. 9-4, but the leader of the NFC North. So they're going to get that 3 seed because the NFC South is putrid. And then in the wild card, you have the aforementioned Birds. You have the Vikings still, as well as the Green Bay Packers at 6 and 7. Other teams in the hunt here, Rams, Seahawks, Atlanta, New Orleans, Chicago, and the Giants. You're going to face a Giants team twice down the stretch that might be fighting for a playoff spot. And those teams in the hunt, those wild card teams, of course, you have to monitor what they're doing because whether Philadelphia is in the 1 seed, the 2 seed, or the 5th seed, with the NFC South paired in there, those could be first-round opponents for the Eagles. The Birds easily have the far easier schedule when you rack up their remaining opponents with the teams that the Dallas Cowboys have to face. And currently, Philadelphia is in a good spot with the Cowboys because the Eagles currently have the better NFC record. By the way, they also have the best record against winning teams this year at 5-2. So some of the overreactions, a little bit hot. A win against the Seattle Seahawks, and that game, we're about to preview it here next, clinches a playoff spot for the Eagles. They pretty much are guaranteed to make it into the playoffs. According to the New York Times simulation, and they went through 320,000 simulations, the Eagles have more than a 99% chance of making the playoffs. Right now, the probability of getting a bye is 20%. Host a wild card, 50%. Wild card overall, 31%. Out, a less than 1% chance. Now, if the Eagles win out, according to that same New York Times model, the opportunity to get the number 1 seed and home field advantage goes all the way up to 50%. Now, if the Eagles lose to Seattle and then win the remaining games, they only have an 8% chance to get the number 1 seed. That's why this game against the Seahawks becomes very, very important for Philadelphia when you match up their remaining schedule, where they are in the NFC playoff picture, but also what's transpiring going down with the Cowboys as well as the San Francisco 49ers. Let's ask you this poll question here, and this will be our pinned comment. We want to hear from you. What seed will the Eagles get? I think it's going to be either the 1 seed or the 2 seed, and the Cowboys go to the 5th seed. Let me know right now down in the comment section. Today's Eagles Now is sponsored by Factor, the number 1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service in America, and the best deal that any meal delivery service has to offer, 50% off when you use the code EaglesChat50. Look at the meals on your screen and the variety here. Sun-dried tomato chicken, boom. Honey maple barbecue ground beef, slaps. Loaded bacon shredded chicken, that smacks. And what I love about Factor is the variety of meals that they have to offer. If you want a protein-heavy meal, they have plenty of those. Keto, plenty of those. If you want to go vegetarian or you are a vegetarian right now, there are vegetarian options as well. Everything is delivered straight to your door, fresh, never frozen, dietitian approved, chef prepared meals, and the deal, awesome. 50% off using the code EaglesChat50. You pick your prepaid meals. They are prepped and cooked to perfection. You heat them up and enjoy them. We're going to put that link down below in the comment section as well as in the description of this video. So let's preview this game against the Seattle Seahawks. Philadelphia going to hit the road December 18th, 8:15 p.m. Eastern kickoff, 5:15 for those of you who are kicking it with us on the West Coast. Game going to take place at Lumen Field in Seattle, a historically very difficult place to play. The odds makers do like the Eagles despite being the road team and despite Philadelphia being underdogs the last 2 weeks. So that's a good sign. Philadelphia is getting 4 points or giving 4 points to Seattle. The over-under for this game is 47.5. This is a Seahawks team that Philadelphia, frankly, cannot lose to. This is a Seattle team that has really struggled and played bad football over the last 6 weeks. They just got swept by the Niners 2 times in 3 weeks. It's the first 4-game losing streak under head coach Pete Carroll. And you look at some of the ways that they've lost these games. Week 9, blown out by the Baltimore Ravens. That really started the skid, 37-3. Week 10, 29-26 win against Washington. Week 11, 17-16 loss against the Rams. Week 12 at home, 31-13 loss to San Francisco. Week 13 lost that shootout against the Dallas Cowboys, 41-35. And then this past week, in Week 14, a 28-16 loss on the road against San Francisco. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, Geno Smith dealing with that groin injury. If he can't play, Drew Lock will. They do have receiver talent, and that is obviously a concern for Philadelphia's awful secondary. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba all healthy right now. And this Seahawks team, they've lost 4 games in a row, and they are fighting, scratching, and clawing for their playoff lives. You have the Eagles at 10-3, but then you look at the teams in the hunt. If the season were to end today, the Seahawks would not be in the playoffs at 6-7, and they don't have the tiebreaker over the Los Angeles Rams. So they need a little bit of help because they got swept by Sean McVay's team. The problems with Seattle that they can pose is the receiving corps. It's DK Metcalf. It's Tyler Lockett. It's Jackson Smith and Jigba, especially on third downs because this Eagles defense can't get off the field. And in the red zone, they can't stop a nosebleed. What's also an issue is the historical context here. The Philadelphia Eagles have not beaten the Seahawks since 2008. The Eagles are the far better team, far more talented team, far superior team. And with the desperation level that the Seahawks have, I understand it. But this Eagles team is desperate as well. 3 straight losses to kick off December. Can you imagine what the Sports Talk Radio call-in lines are going to be like in Philadelphia? Can you imagine the outrage here on Eagles Now? We don't want that to happen. Philadelphia doesn't want it to happen, and that's why I think the Eagles are winning this game. My keys to the game. Philadelphia simply has to stop turning the football over. Over the last 5 games, they have 5 fumbles and 2 interceptions. If you're not playing a clean brand of football, I don't care who you're playing, you're going to lose a lot in the NFL. I also want to see Philadelphia finally find offensive consistency. Is this the game that kicks the Eagles into gear? Because all year they've been such an up and down, sporadic Jekyll and Hyde unit. Number 3, this defense and this secondary has to play better, especially against a solid weaponry core with Seattle that I talked about with those wide receivers. Get off the field on third downs and get off the field in the red zones and stop giving up touchdowns and force some turnovers. My goodness. And the defensive line has to get home in doing that as well and generate some pressure on the quarterback. Philadelphia, I want to see the Birds show that they want it. They didn't against San Francisco. A.J. Brown even said, we didn't match their level of physicality throughout the entire game. We only did it at times. And against Dallas, it looked as though the Eagles were beat up. They were slow, lacking confidence. And I didn't love the effort. And then lastly, if the Eagles win here, they calm their own nerves with the victory. They calm the nerves of the entire fan base as well, that right now is up in arms. And everybody's talking about Nick Sirianni being on the hot seat, firing Brian Johnson as well as Sean Desai. I understand it's been ugly. Glass half full approach, though. It's good that these struggles are happening right now and not later. Who you got? Eagles, Seahawks. Get those predictions in. I'm riding with the Birds. I think this offense scores some points for the first time in a couple of weeks, and they're consistent. 31-20, my final score. All right, we're about to hop on out of here. Thanks to everybody for watching today. We appreciate you. 4 segments in the bag. That is what you call easy money. Hope you all enjoyed the content as well. Recent Commenter Club, Vendetta Records, Brian Russell, Ernesto, Don Ackerley, Brian, all in the chat right now. As far as the predictions, Martian Lynch 24-14 Seahawks. Vendetta, Philadelphia. Brian Russell, Philadelphia. Ernesto, Philadelphia. And then somebody said that the Eagles are overdue in Seattle. I agree. That is Don Ackerley right there. All right, Chip's a little bit under the weather. I'm starting to increasingly get a little bit under the weather, getting the chills here on air. So we're going to sign off. Thanks to everybody who watched the show today. We got up to $67 in Super Chats. Paul C., you are a Super Chat MVP, and now that you popped the question, you're your ladies' MVP as well. Be somebody's MVP to round out the day. Those are my words of positivity before we hop on out of here, and we will see you on Monday Night Football for Eagles Seahawks.